My name's Kassi Doherty. I was born in Wichita, Kansas. I spent half my childhood in Wichita and half my childhood in a little tiny farming community called Valley Falls. The best thing about it was, especially I spent age 5 to 12 in the little town. The closeness to nature was nice. Nobody locked their doors. There was a feeling of relative safety. But the best part about it was animals and nature, and that was nice. Well, there are surprising similarities. Of course, this is a heavily urban environment. You can't walk barefoot anywhere. You shouldn't walk barefoot anywhere. But every neighborhood is like a little town. So, like, I've lived in the same neighborhood for over, I think, about 25 years, or a little more than 25 years. I know all my neighbors. I know the people at my local shops. They know me. So it's kind of like a small town. Also, you walk everywhere. So those are the similarities, I guess. Oh, I'm a New Yorker. I think I was born a New Yorker. My family, and there's a dish called chicken fried steak, which is like it's like a scored beef patty that's deep fried, and then it comes with cream gravy, and you can't get that here. It's like the one thing you can't get here. That's a good question. I think if you love humanity, if you love people, this is the best place I've ever been to like really immerse yourself in humanity. All kinds of people are here. All kinds of people meaning people from all over the world, but also all kinds of people meaning all different kinds of personalities and lifestyle choices. And if you love humanity, this is a place you can immerse yourself in humanity. And also, if you want to be a world traveler but you can't afford to travel, you can try any kind of food. You can meet any kind of person. All the music festivals and theater festivals and cultural festivals. Right. The number one thing you need is not only a good pair of walking shoes, but you got to break them in before you come here. Especially, I guess I'm speaking to people from countries that have car culture, or like other Americans where the cities have car culture, because if you're not used to walking, you think you have a good pair of shoes and then you get here and then you have blisters on your first day. So good shoes and then break them in. Yeah, there's a wonderful park in my neighborhood. I would say you want to go anywhere between, say, April 1st and October 1st, because the great thing about the park is the flower garden. It has it's called Fort Tryon Park. It's right off the A train, the 190th stop of the A train. It has sweeping views of the Hudson River and beautiful, beautiful flowers and trees. And then it's about a 10-minute hike up to the Cloisters Museum, which is a wing of the Met Museum that's just medieval art. That's really cool. That would be maybe my first choice. I also really like the East River Park and the parks that are right along the river between the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge. It just affords these really incredible views of the river and the ferries and the arches of the different bridges, and it makes for really great pictures. And not a lot of tourists know about it. What are my favorite spots? Wow. I really like the Two Bridges neighborhood. Is probably my favorite neighborhood right now, because when I moved here in the 90s, there was a lot less gentrification. As neighborhoods gentrify, everything starts to look the same, because when you have privately owned businesses, every business has its own look and its own vibe. When things become corporate, everything is kind of the same. So Two Bridges it's a part of Chinatown, really. Most people would think of it as Chinatown. And most of the businesses are privately owned, so every business has its own feeling and its own vibe. It's an immigrants' neighborhood, and there's still, I think, a lot of working class people there, which always adds, I don't know, I'm a working class person, so maybe I'm biased, but it adds a little, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, interest to a neighborhood when you have working class people. I mean, this is a city of people from everywhere else. 40% of New Yorkers were born outside the U.S. I don't know what the percentage is for people from other parts of America coming to New York, but I think it's pretty high. So as long as I've lived here, the 30 years I've been here, this has always been a city full of people speaking different languages, etc. So I think New York welcomes foreigners. If anything, we've just gotten more stubborn about being a place that welcomes all kinds of people and immigrants and stuff. Immigrants especially. This city is run by immigrants. All the important jobs are done by immigrants. Restaurants and bars and stores and childcare, all that stuff, that's mostly done by immigrants. The city would screech to a halt without those people. And I think, and I know what you're talking about, like the last 10 years or so, American politics has gotten more and more conservative. And I feel like New York has just gone the opposite way. And I think people have fled from other areas to come here because of that. And I think that's also something that's been true of New York for a long time. People come here because they want a more welcoming, cosmopolitan environment. You should find a nice place to sit and have a little beverage, a coffee or something, and just relax and just drink it in. Just give yourself some time to drink it in and acclimate. Sure. Outside of the U.S., I've been to Canada, I've been to Ireland, I've been to Italy, I've been to Germany. I would love to go many more places. In the U.S., I've done the West Coast. I'm from the Midwest. I've been to Florida. I've done most of the East Coast cities. I've been to Texas. And I guess that's about it. Oh, wow. So many. There's so many places I'd like to go. Oh, gosh, I don't know. I would love to go to Egypt. I would love to see the pyramids. I've never been, so many places I haven't been. I'd really like to go to Singapore. I'd love to see Tokyo. And I'm kind of a Stonehenge nerd, so I would love to see Stonehenge, which is, I guess everybody knows that's in England, so I would love to see Stonehenge. I've got good advice. So first of all, don't be afraid to be rude. This is for women especially. New Yorkers, we don't talk to each other outside of, like, maybe if you go to a bar or you're in a social setting where it's expected. But if you're in a park or you're walking down the street, another New Yorker is never going to come up and just start talking to you unless they want money or they're hitting on you maybe. So don't be afraid to just shut it down immediately and be like, I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. And then you can take the subway as a woman by yourself, I would say, until about 2 a.m. New York has 2 a.m. bars and 4 a.m. bars, so until 2 a.m. people are still going out. After 2, it becomes a little, I would feel unsafe taking the subway. Sunday and Mondays, I would cut it off at midnight. And there's a car on the subway called the conductor car. So try to get on the conductor car when you're traveling by yourself as a woman. You know, if you're in Manhattan, all of Manhattan's pretty safe. This is, I think, the best rule of thumb for safety, and this goes for everybody. You want to be where the people are. If you turn a corner and suddenly you're the only person, that's not good. So just always be where there's lots of people and you'll be pretty safe. Oh yeah, I would love to. Yeah, so I used to work at a restaurant. Maybe since this is on record, I should just not mention the name of the restaurant. So I used to work at a seafood restaurant that was on the Hudson River in Midtown, like in Chelsea. And one day the manager comes up to me and he says, "Can you bartend?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can bartend." He's like, "Do you want to work the after party?" I said, "What's the after party?" He's like, "Do you want to work the after party or not?" So I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll work the after party." So the restaurant closes at like 11 o'clock. At midnight, the DJs come in and they have these, you know, this is the 90s, so they have these enormous speakers and all this equipment. And by midnight, there's like loud music and hundreds of people crammed into this little restaurant. And I made more money as a bartender at that job than in any other job I ever had as a bartender or server. And then New Year's Eve, 1998 to 1999, I wasn't at this party, but there was a shooting and the police were called. And so the police were like, "Why are all these people crammed into this restaurant, et cetera, et cetera." And that was it for the after party. And that was it for that restaurant. Yeah, I made a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then I had two friends that worked there, and they pooled their money together, and for $20,000 they put a down payment on the whole top floor of a cast iron building in Soho that's worth millions and millions of dollars today. So the cleanup took about, the first phase of the cleanup took about a year. There was debris, which was that dust. A lot of it was like asbestos and dangerous things, and it spread out for like a full mile in a circular, shape around the epicenter, and it took up Chinatown, Lower Manhattan, the financial district, Little Italy, parts of Soho, Nolita, covered with dust, and nobody could get in. It was basically closed off to car traffic for almost a full year. So businesses were going out of business. The economy was taking a dive in that area. And then it even took, like, if memory serves, it was about 3 months for the fires to stop burning. Every day we would turn on the TV and I would think to myself, today's going to be the day that there's no smoke coming out of the ground zero. But it took almost until the end of December, if memory serves, for the smoke to clear. And then after everything was cleaned up, and the process was extremely painstaking because they weren't just cleaning up rubble, they were searching for human remains. And there are hundreds of people that no remains were ever found, for, and that's an important thing for closure for the family. And you can imagine the stress of the people, just the construction workers, just doing their job, but also having to worry about stumbling upon somebody's loved one. And that, I imagine that would have been so stressful. So finally, after the cleanup was done, the only thing that was left was something that was called the bathtub. That part of Manhattan is built on landfill, so it's very prone to flooding. And the World Trade Center complex is like 4 square city blocks. So they dug 4 stories down and they filled that whole area with concrete to protect it from storm surge. So it looked like a big bathtub, and old timers would joke about the bathtub, as they were trying to get the financing for the buildings. It looked like a bathtub for a giant. And after the cleanup, the bathtub was still there. And it is still underneath the buildings today, the new buildings, protecting them from storm surge. And it's a testament to the strength of the engineering of the original building. But we didn't even get the memorial until 2011. So that's 10 years after the event. I stopped going down there. I went down there one time in December because they announced on the news that they were going to tear down what was left of it. And I thought I should have something in my memory, so I went down to look at it. And then that was the last time I really went down there. People just stopped going down there unless you worked down there because it was just so depressing. It looked like Manhattan had been hit by an asteroid. It was just really sad. So we got the memorial in 2011, and then in 2015 they completed the new World Trade Center. And I forgot all about it. And one day I was coming up out of the subway at Fulton Street and I saw it, and for a split second I thought I was hallucinating. And then I remembered, no, it's the new one. And then I felt this wonderful sense of closure, which I wasn't expecting. I guess it had subconsciously bothered me that not only was there a hole, downtown in the ground, but there was a hole in the skyline. We love that building. We fall in love with buildings here the way people in mountainous places, I think, fall in love with mountains. You come to have feelings of human affection for it. It did change New York. It changed everything in the U.S. I can't speak for what things are like in the rest of the world after 9/11, but the biggest thing I noticed was the incredible uptick in security. Before 9/11, you would have never seen armed soldiers in subway stations. When you went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, nobody demanded to search your purse. Now, everywhere you go, any cultural institution, sometimes even when you go to the theater or you go to like a fancy cultural event, you have to get your bag searched. We've all gotten used to it now, but there was a time when that wasn't the thing. And probably the biggest thing for New Yorkers is nobody goes to New Year's Eve in Times Square anymore because the security on New Year's Eve is mind-blowing. Before 9/11, you could come and go as you pleased, and there was security down there, but it wasn't crazy. Now they make you get there 8 hours ahead of time. You can't leave even to use the bathroom. So that's probably the most intense security we have all year, but I would say more than anything else, the security. Incredible security everywhere. Which, I understand it's to protect us, but there's something in me that doesn't like it, that feels like we're a less free society than we were. Well, I'm so much older than young single people, but I think it's probably not too different than when I was in my 20s. Your best bet is to go to some kind of social or cultural event, go to hear a band, go to a club. If you're traveling and you're hoping to meet somebody when you're here for a short time, that's what I would do. If you're living here or you're maybe going to be here for an extended time, this sounds very corny, but I would find something you're interested in, join a hiking group or join a movie discussion group or something. That's the best way to meet people. I've never liked the apps. They're so impersonal. It's like going to the boyfriend or girlfriend store. It's just weird. Mm-hmm. And I think you're always better off meeting people in person.
Like this.